say change starts from within, from the heart, from the core. This is the core of our nation, untouched, left behind by today's growth story. Meet these young change makers. They had the courage to follow their hearts into the heartland of the nation.
I realize that if they get any form of alternate livelihood which will benefit them to stay here instead of having to go out, and which they can work in the comfort of their house, and because there is so much bamboo around them, I realize this is something that I would like to work with.
So when I came here, I chose to work on their health aspects, since these people are working in nearly above 45 degrees Celsius under the sun. What happens is they suffer from dehydration, and since these people have been working in the same style for their entire life, their whole body becomes chronically dehydrated.
தண்ணி எல்லாம் அதிகம் சாப்பிட வேண்டியதாக இருக்குது, ஆனால் சாப்பிட முடியுதில்லை. பக்கத்தில் வந்து எல்லா ஆண்கள்லாம் வேலை பார்த்துட்டிங்கிறதுனால நம்ம தூரத்தில் போக வேண்டியே இருக்குது. அதனால அங்கிட்டு போக முடியுதில்லை.
With the belief that things could be different, they committed a year of their lives to the SBI Youth for India Fellowship to ride the waves of change as leaders.
They are mainly looking at the problems of the poor and the downtrodden.
The fellowship allows these young change makers to follow their passion, be it in education, health, livelihood, or any aspect of rural development.
இந்த லெட்டின் கட்டி கொடுத்தது இப்போ ரொம்ப வசதியாக இருக்குது.
Because of these activities, I'm able to provide some kind of value to the society. Not only society, but as well as myself.
जो सब लोग आएंगे उसके हम सलाह लेकर और उसको हाथ पकड़कर थोड़ा आगे बढ़ेंगे.
पूजा मैडम बोल रहे थे हम खुद लोग इसका मार्केटिंग करें आगे जाके.
ஒரு யூஸ்ஃபுல்லான பொருளையும் இங்கே கொடுத்தீங்க, அதனால நாங்கள் தைரியமாக இருப்போம். இனிமேல் நாங்கள் எதுவும் கூச்சப்பட மாட்டோம். ஒரு எல்லாத்தையும் ஃபேஸ் பண்ணுற அளவுக்கு இருப்போம்.
जिसको कंप्यूटर कुछ भी नहीं आता वो एक्सेल शीट वार्ड में भी काम कर सकते हैं, पेंटिंग वगैरह सब भी बना सकते हैं.
பெரிய ஒரு நல்லது எதுவுமே நாங்கள் எதிர்பார்க்கவே இல்லைங்க. ஆனால் இப்போ சாதாரணமாக நீங்கள் சிம்பிளாக ஒரு இது செய்யணும்னு வந்திருக்கிறது வந்து எங்களுக்கு ரொம்ப மகிழ்ச்சி அளிக்கிறது.
You have to try it yourself. You are the decision maker, and it all depends on you. It all comes down to you.
The cliched unconditional love that we all hear about, we actually get to see it here.
That we should be promoting humanity. We should be promoting being together.
Yes, change starts from within, from here, and gathers into a movement to fuel change.
Hello and welcome to the road less traveled. Over the course of the next couple of hours, we are hopefully going to try and inspire you. Inspire you to do something slightly different, inspire you to connect with your own country, inspire you to perhaps go out and make a change, and a change which is really needed, which is required, and which may perhaps help in transforming your own lives. That's what we're going to try and do for the next couple of hours. And why is this important? Because while more than 2/3 of India's population still depends on agriculture and allied activities for livelihood, the youth population of this country, those who are on high growth career paths, often don't consider rural India as being connected with the larger India growth story. What does that mean? It means that working for rural India is mostly equated with giving back to society or charity or a sacrifice of some sort that is being made, not a career choice, not as something that you should do for its own sake. And to understand this huge gap, we've gathered together a fantastic panel of people who've done fantastic work already here, and they can share some of those stories with you. Also, a few young men and women who have decided to devote their lives also to the road less traveled, if not their lives, a few weeks, a few months, and make a mark to society and make a mark to themselves. And let me start by welcoming our panel. I'm going to start off by welcoming our partner in this exercise, Arundhati Bhattacharya, who's the chairperson of the State Bank of India. Great to have you with us, joining us. Thanks a lot. And here in the studio, Gul Panag, who has, is a social entrepreneur of a different type now. You've got a tech company, so you're a tech entrepreneur. We all know you for your work, Gul, obviously in films and other areas, and for running, and then for politics. But you're here in your capacity as somebody who has created a tech venture
platform
which can help people to do this. And I'm going to get you to talk about it. Actually, why don't you give us a couple of lines about it? What exactly is it that you're doing?
Well, the idea is to bring together on one platform people looking for volunteer work, wanting to give back, people who need volunteer services, and find a way to involve corporates such as State Bank of India to incentivize it by giving people weightage during appraisals and during job inductions. But to add on the larger scale of volunteering, Vikram, I believe the socio-economic inequity in India is too vast for the most willing, and by that I mean political will, government to be able to do that in a reasonable amount of time, and the gap can only be bridged by the non-governmental sector, which I think needs a lot of volunteering.
But what you have done is you built a platform which makes it easier for somebody. If you want to volunteer one day, you can find work to do in that one day. So, all right, we're going to get details of you as to how you've done that. Megan Fallon of the Barefoot College, I mean, you've been encouraging young people to go out and do work. Just share a few lines with it, and then we'll go into more details later.
Well, we really embarked about 3 years ago on a program that would allow us to include the brightest and most motivated of our young people to join a 42-year-old grassroots organization and begin to understand not only what they would bring to us, but what we had and what our communities had to teach and to develop in them to make them better leaders and better participants in the future.
Okay, and why they should do this is something that you will share with us as we go forward. Yogendra Yadav, again, you may have known him from CSDS days, politics, all sorts of things, Yogendra, and of course Sophology, which is particularly close to our hearts, I guess, here in this company. But
not
now,
mine any longer.
Yeah, well, now encouraging a lot of people to go out, and you've been able to get young people to go out into rural India while you're doing the work with this drought that is on. Go out and try and make a change. Just 1 week of your life.
You know, we've one of the biggest droughts affecting more than 50 crore people, and most Indians, most urban metropolitan Indians react to it as if this drought was taking place in Ethiopia. So we've been involving young people. We've started a program called Drought Duty, and I believe there are a couple of people here who have shared that, where we invite them to spend 1 week in a drought affected area, in a drought affected village, do survey, map water resources, give information about their entitlements, come back and join. But it's voluntary work of a slightly different kind. We don't see this as a career opportunity. It's a life opportunity. It's more, not so much in the NGO mode, it's more in the movement mode, which
and what's been the response of the first few people who did it?
Well, the first batch has just come out, and I believe one of those who survived is here. Some of them had to, it was actually very difficult conditions. The first batch went close to Gwalior. This place is very hot right now. They had conditions which they were not used to. I understand that. They had difficult time.
So we're going to get you to talk about it.
They came back, and about 500 people have already enrolled, and I believe at the end of this program, we would have more. It's droughtduty@gmail.com.
All right, great. So Atishi, you next, so I keep coming through the panel. You've done a lot of work in alternative education as well, in addition to politics and things like that that we know you for. Is it easy to inspire young people to do something like this?
I think it's actually both ways. While there is one set of young people who are increasingly going into corporate jobs, who are looking at pay packages, who are looking at the number of zeros which are coming in there when they get their job offers, there's also increasingly another very large category of young people who are choosing to make different choices, who are choosing, like many of the young people here, for short-term periods to have rural exposures, who may choose jobs in the NGO sector. Or even, for example, from my experience in politics, even within the Aam Aadmi Party, we've had a range of young people who have come in to volunteer for different lengths of time, who have chosen to have chosen to sort of walk on the road less traveled. And these are very difficult choices. These are not easy choices to make. Yet, there seem to be a lot of young people who have the courage to make these choices now.
All right, Chavi Rajawat, now you're somebody who's done it with her own life. MBA, you could have been out there working in some hotshot investment bank, but you decided to go back as a sarpanch of your village, and you made a major difference out there. Have you ever regretted that choice?
Not at all, not even once. In spite of the many
Hand on
challenges,
heart?
I have absolutely no regrets.
Okay, what made you do it, and what would you tell somebody else to inspire them to make that same choice?
So what made me do it was the fact that to me, my village is home. To me, this country is home. So in fact, I had a bit of a problem when I read the topic of this discussion, because should that question even be asked? When we're born into a family or a home, we automatically feel connected and do things for that family, for that home. We have to also realize that we're also born to this nation. So should it not naturally come to us to do something for our own country? And to the youth that is here, I would ask the question, do you not want the future for your own self? And in other words, for your own nation to be better? And if you do, if the answer is yes, then I would say come forward and participate, because you have the possibility and the ability to make that difference. And I, in my own bit, have tried to do just that. And this is my second term. I was first elected in 2010, entered a drought hit zone. This year again, the government has declared it as a drought hit zone. But while the challenges are immense, I believe that someone has to make a start somewhere. If in all these decades since independence, we've not seen our rural India progress, it clearly means there's something amiss somewhere. So I think each one of us needs to come forward. And just imagine if just the 7 of us who are seated here up on stage were to work collectively towards developing one village, even if it's one village at a time, we'll be able to develop it holistically, bring about an integrated development, and make it easier to replicate that work and scale up that work in other villages as well. But for that, we need to connect the dots. We need to work together. We need to collaborate.
Well, before I come to Arundhati ji to get details of the specific Youth for India, fellowship that we are here to talk about at some length also, Pradeep Kashyap, you're the founder of MART. You've actually often called the father of rural marketing. What is your take on how you can persuade people to spend more time and to consider this as really perhaps the biggest growth story, not just in India but anywhere in the world? What is going to happen in rural India over the next 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years is actually a massive opportunity.
If I may start by saying that, I've worked with multinational companies for 15 years, including Toyota and Bosch, and then I had a change of heart. And for the last 30 years, I've been into rural development, working with the poor, with a difference that I believe that we should run a professional company, and it should be a for-profit company. We have about 75 MBAs who work with us, and all our work is deep in rural areas, in the work of handicrafts, handloom, village industry products. I've been the chairman of the Khadi Commission marketing for some years. Because I believe that the wealth of India actually lies in rural India. And even if you take GDP numbers, as most of you are familiar with, 50% of India's GDP now comes from rural India. Okay? So the next growth has to come from rural India, because urban India has got saturated, and therefore the future... So
you should consider this for sound economic reasons.
For sound economic reasons, if this country has to move forward, the GDP numbers will now be added by rural India and not by urban India. And also, all factories have moved out of big cities into small towns and villages. Okay. And therefore, all the wealth is now being created in rural India.
All right. So lots obviously to talk about, and we're going to get into many aspects of everything that we've heard so far. But Arundhati ji, if I can just come across to you right now. So one of the campaigns that we've been really working with you on is the Youth for India Fellowship Program, which basically is encouraging a lot of young people to go out there. Would you like to just share a few lines on why you think this is an important initiative?
Well, the Youth for India program was actually meant in order to allow the youth to go into deep rural areas and then work on a project for a period of 13 months. And during that period, the bank supports them with a stipend and with medical insurance.
and of course also connects them with one NGO who's already got projects over there, and they have the option of either doing their own project or working alongside the NGO with their project. The reason why we thought of this is that we found that the youth actually love a challenge. And I think that's been true across the ages. It's not that the youth like it today. When we were young, we also used to love a challenge. Now, if that challenge is properly put across to them, there are a lot of people who are willing to take that up. And when they take that up, they do that because they believe that it is not only they who can make a contribution, but they themselves will have a lot of learnings from an experience of this nature. And that's the reason why when we put out our advertisements or the requests for people to come and join us, we find that there are absolutely no dearth of takers. And in fact, last year we had about 6,000 people from whom we managed to choose around 60. So actually speaking, the choice we get is pretty large. And all of these people, when they actually go into the rural areas, they have a very tough time. Most of them are coming not only from India, some from abroad. They have never been in a place where there's not been a fan or electricity or running water. And here they go into deep rural areas where none of these are there. I think for the first 2 or 3 months, all of them feel like running away and they need a lot of hand-holding. But subsequent to that and subsequent to their completing of this 13 months, I have asked many of them and they have all said that 13 months is insufficient. And they need to, many of them actually, go back on their own time and continue the work with these projects. However, when I asked them that, if I had given you 2 years instead of 13 months, would you have stayed? A number of them have said that, we really don't know, maybe we wouldn't have. 2 years may have been too long a time. So it's a very major challenge, but most of these people, they take it and they do very well.
Well, that's actually 13 months does sound reasonably daunting, and it is a challenge, but it's great to hear that when someone has finished that particular program, they are happy about it and they feel that we would like to continue to do it.